So but the problem, I think, that what you're kind of talking about at the same time is that no one that I am aware of really trusts the judicial system in the state of Texas. I mean, I remember talking with a judge, and I said, if over the next 2 years you can get my trust level in the judiciary from where it is right now up to 0,
yeah.
you will have done a great job.
That'd have been a starting, yeah.
Right, and I said, and unfortunately, I mean, I was one of the people that wanted to believe that the judicial system was fair.
I was raised in it. Father being an ex-DPS officer and an investigator for a lot of these district and county courts, and I wanted to believe in it.
Right.
And walked in, and I guess what automatically just plummeted my belief in it was when my attorney during divorce had told me, if she doesn't agree to it, you're not going to get it. This judge will never give 50-50 on even a temporary basis.
Right.
But yet I could be in the household with my child every day during marriage, but I can't outside of marriage.
Right.
So that automatically plummeted, and it only got worse in where we're sitting now, because just like bringing these, when they violate the family code, they're no longer trustworthy. But the problem is when a judge allows them,
right,
and promotes the violations,
right,
there's no honor in that. Then when you bring it to the state judiciary committee for them to do anything on the ethics board, they don't hold them accountable.
Yeah, and it's very interesting that you mentioned the ethics board, because there was a decision the ethics board is supposed to be rendering today, if not yesterday, regarding Judge Mary Brown.
Right.
I filed the complaint against her, and I think they're supposed to have that decision today. I'm going to call them probably on Friday to find out what it is. Of course, they may not do it today,
right.
But when she's running for an elected office and she is under ethical investigations because of violations of the election code, which are plain as day, these are her records, she submitted them, complete violation of the election code, and they give her a pass and they allow her to use the money to help her supposedly win an election. Something is really wrong. We cannot even trust the oversight committees.
No.
The State Commission on Judicial Conduct, there's no trust right there.
No.
And there's always excuses. Well, they're overworked. Well, I'm sorry.
That's your job.
That is your job. And I don't care if you're a volunteer or whatever. In fact, we've floated this idea around that I think we should have a citizens board of judicial conduct, because we as citizens are taking interest in what's going on here.
Yep.
We as citizens are the ones that are being harmed by our government. We as citizens are the ones that have seen the injustice again and again and again. And there have been times that have shocked me. It's like, well, we don't want to believe that these things can happen in our courts.
Right.
There are some people. I have spoken with one person on the State Commission on Judicial Conduct, and I thought that he knew that there were issues, but they're not funded correctly. There's not enough people. They're overworked. There's so many issues, and I've got some solutions for them, but they'll never be paid attention to.
Well, and you bring up a great point, but with a citizens committee for a lot of these places, right? So,
right.
Texas Behavioral Health Executive Council, who governs and writes new laws, changes them, modifies them, and then also does all the reprimanding or any type of sanctions to them. I filed 13 pages on one counselor. I filed 7 pages on another. I filed another portion of that. And they came back to me today, and after making it as dummy-proof as possible, insufficient evidence.
Right.
And you hear that term a lot.
All the time.
Because they keep all your records. They'll never give them back to you. So if you were, a lot of people that I've talked to that have filed them, they make copies, and that's the only copy they made.
Right.
It goes off to their complaint. They never get it back. They have to start over from scratch.
Right. So, I mean, I've gone so far as we have recordings of various things.
Right.
I have made videos on how to file complaints with the complaint that I'm filing, with the video evidence in the complaint, and they still have insufficient evidence.
Yep.
They will never. It's very seldom. However, I mean, if an attorney were to file against a judge or something like that, maybe then there would be some.
They bring up a great topic when you talk to some of these people online that are trying to get the public more involved on understanding.
Right.
Sit down with that attorney and just ask a first question: how many complaints in a professional capacity have you filed against a judge or another attorney?
Right. Absolutely. I think that's a very important point, because, I mean, personally, I've been to over 150 cases in the last couple of years. And I've said in person, I've been through them virtually, YouTube, on Zoom. And I think 150 is probably on the low end.
Probably.
But, so you witness this. And there are some times that everything is done right. There's a couple of judges that I do like. I said, you know what? This is a pretty good judge here. He really wants to follow the law, the book. He wants to do things equally and right. But I've seen so many judges that's not been the case. I've watched attorneys will slander an individual, willingly, knowingly slander them to try to prejudice either a jury pool or a judge against that individual, so that they can put a notch on their belt.
Yep. And I won for you, but I did it completely unethically, fraudulently.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter because, and this is what my biggest fear is, one day that all of our kids come back and they say, where have you been this whole time? Why weren't you a part of my life? And you really can just take a transcript and go, read what was said.
But this should never be the case. And personally, that's why I'm fighting, because I said I do not want the system around for my grandkids.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I'm at. My daughter's, luckily, she's still at a very young age, and I'm still putting forth that effort. But even if she was on the latter part, working her way out of the system, then I would still be doing this, because the last thing I want is that the next time, what if my daughter goes through this and it's completely opposite, where she's the one in my shoes.
Right.
Then what do we do?
Yeah.
Because if you start that fight in the middle of the fight, you've lost.
Yeah.
And that's where, I wouldn't say my problem started. My problem started when the attorney I hired from the start. But my problem started is that his mind was made up, and it didn't matter. And then as we moved through our case, the child custody evaluator that was appointed and finished, he finished his appointment in June. He finished it in June, gave an oral report to opposing counsel and myself, and stated that they were playing with fire with no access, that something needs to get done. Mm-hmm. And I asked him, is that something that you're going to bring to the court? Well, usually I let the attorneys handle it. I heard nothing from the attorney. I messaged the attorneys, nothing. October, a report was written. It wasn't until December. So from June until December, I had to hire an attorney.
Right.
Because I was getting nowhere.
Yeah.
December, 6 months later, we finally had a hearing, and I got time back with my daughter.
Yeah. Wow.
But it was 6 more months.
Yeah, and 6 more months
of no contact.
And how much money?
Oh, at this time we're probably 15 in, and that's just from the June. Well, that's just from about September to December. That was just to get going, because we knew I'd already filed for a jury trial. So now we're getting started for a jury trial. What do you think that prep is? Yeah. Over 3 years, and all the allegations that are coming down the pipe. Now he's stepping into it. Yeah. So now he's got to prep. Of course, if he's doing his job, then I have no problem paying him. Yeah. But there's no way, with the amount of mass of data that he needed to look at and what he was arguing, he could do anything. So we went through supervised visits. Nothing happened, nothing at all. I get back to a standard possession from Friday at 6 to Sunday at 6, so I'm automatically less than what I was at divorce. Right. I get a full week with spring break. Right. Unsupervised. Everything goes great. We go through almost the entire year. We go back to a week-on, week-off schedule during the summer. Everything's fine until the weekend before trial. And they filed another TRO to get her away so that I couldn't have her before the hearing. Yeah. Yeah, but we need to make these things easier because it's so difficult to find. And he granted it. Yeah. He granted it. Yeah. We didn't even we had a 2-hour hearing. At what point they brought in no supervisor to ask what was going on. In fact, they even made it to where she couldn't even testify. When they actually put her into her role, non-testimonial supervisor. Well, what do you think that does whenever you know that there's a fit parent and there's no accusations coming? Yeah. Right? So she wasn't allowed. The two of them weren't allowed. And then they went a step further than that when we started doing the motion of limiting. Now, we're talking about things about the court. This is huge because your motion of limine is what your evidence is going to come in or not come in. They filed a motion to restrict my home surveillance camera of when our daughter was getting dropped off. I couldn't use it. Home surveillance camera that protects my house. Yeah. But caught those times whenever for 11 months I didn't get to see my daughter and she's running to me. running, crying, so happy to see me. Couldn't use any of that in court.
Yeah.
And that's a violation of the rules of evidence. But when you're in family court, and it absolutely deviates from the narrative that you need, they're going to do it.
Right. So you're saying